The journey of getting a movie from announcement to release is a long and treacherous one, and not many can say they've made it to the end. But when you look at the journey of a Star Wars movie, it gets even more complicated. Here are all of the announced and canceled Star Wars projects since we've last gotten a Star Wars movie. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
So with the basically announcement of a new Star Wars trilogy that is in the works, it's been all but approved by Disney in terms of like it being out and about. Variety has reported on it. Deadline has reported on it. Many news outlets have reported on it, including Simon Kinberg, the person that has been rumored to be working on this. He has gone and confirmed it on Instagram, I think it was. Everyone is aware of this. I wanted to go back and talk about the broad history of announced and canceled Star Wars projects going all the way back to 2019. And thankfully, IndieWire has gone and done the hard work of pulling all of the reports from September 2019 to now in terms of what has actually been announced for Star Wars projects. Star Wars in 2019 in September announced that Kevin Feige was going to help come up with a vision of Star Wars going forward and would be working on a movie. This is also the time frame that they announced that Rian Johnson, director of The Last Jedi and Knives Out, would be working on his own trilogy to be set up after the time frame of the Skywalker saga ending. This is also when Game of Thrones showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss had also been tapped to develop their own Star Wars trilogies, and it was quite the time. Fast forward a month later, immediately pretty much, the Game of Thrones showrunners said, oh yeah, peace out. We're not going to be making the Star Wars project after all.
Yeah, not a huge surprise there.
That's like right off the bat. This is before Star Wars Rise of Skywalker has even come out. We already have big announcements and immediately people leaving.
I kind of wonder if that was just a conflict of interests, because I don't know, Game of Thrones and Star Wars are very different franchises, and I think maybe Star Wars people were just like, you know what, you guys do great in your own thing, maybe don't. I don't know.
I wonder too, like when you say this is a Game of Thrones type show, there are expectations put on it to be a certain thing, and maybe they just did not want this idea of like an R-rated, more mature Star Wars project, even if that's not what they were intending to put forward. The idea that the showrunners of Game of Thrones would be building a Star Wars project, the expectations to it be Game of Thrones-esque would have been pretty high.
Yeah, for sure.
Then in February of 2020, the announcement, there were rumors that J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens, who have done mostly indie stuff, but Matt Owens did Luke Cage and J.D. Dillard did Slight. Apparently they were working on something. We don't have many details on that, but it was also put forward at this time that movies from Star Wars were going to be in December of 2022, 2024, and 2026. So by this year, we've already had 2 movies according to this in February of 2020. May, after Rise of Skywalker, Taika Waititi is confirmed to be directing a Star Wars movie and would be working with 1917 screenwriter Christy Wilson Carnes. This had first been rumored in January, while Rise of Skywalker was still rumored. This is after he's been directing some episodes of Mandalorian, huge success of Thor Ragnarok and Jojo Rabbit, so they were like, yeah, let's rock and roll. Let's do this.
That's interesting, because there's still talk about Taika Waititi.
There still is. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years. 4 years in the making of just talking about Taika Waititi directing something.
That's how I feel about all of the stuff on this list, is that I did not realize how long so much of this stuff had actually just been delayed or announced or not officially canceled but put on the back burner.
Yeah.
It was also said that in August of 2020, so several months later, that Lucasfilm is taking a step back from the movies and wanted to figure out where they want to go next.
That's funny.
Quote, "We just need the time to step back and really absorb what George has created and then start to think about where things might go. That's what we've been doing, and we've been having a great deal of fun doing it and meeting with lots of different filmmakers and talent." So it's a lot of talk without any actual activity. It's like, what could this be? Because as soon as it is way less intense when you're talking about from a boardroom what direction Star Wars should go in than it is actually getting out there and making a Star Wars anything.
Yeah.
There are tons of expectations. There are tons of things that come into effect when you think about making a Star Wars that I feel like Lucasfilm have close to forgotten the reality of making a Star Wars movie. There are now so many expectations placed on whatever that is going to be. And there's also this burnout of Star Wars announcing projects, which we'll get on later when we actually talk about the upcoming trilogy of things.
It's really fascinating that in 2020 they were talking about stepping away from the movies, and now just 4 years later we're talking about we gotta go hard on the movies because that's what actually makes us money. It's
there were reports less than 6 months ago, maybe even longer than that Bob Iger is very on board with the idea of going back to the movies, that Star Wars is a movie-led franchise. They're doing this with Marvel as well, that Marvel is going to be focused on releasing 2 movies a year with, I think, 3 TV shows.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Stepping back from the 20-something project that they had a few years ago. 2025 is going to be more than that, just because of
what
things
they had
getting
in the works.
done.
Yeah.
But I think it's fascinating that Marvel has already successfully moved to this model, while Star Wars has been talking about this idea since 2020. In December.
Well, not even talking about that idea. They were like they're flip-flopping.
Yeah, they're like, okay, we're doing movies. Oh, crap, no, we're not doing movies. We're just doing TV shows. Oh, crap, we can't do TV shows because we don't get enough money from that. Oh, crap, well, we can't do movies because it just seems every 6 months it's like, oh, no, we're doing this.
It really kind of puts a light on how much has been canceled because they are in such flux of what are we exactly standing for?
We don't know what a
right
Star
now?
Wars movie looks like now.
Yeah.
We haven't had one since 2019, 5 years ago.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, almost exactly 5 years ago as we head into December. But in December of 2020, Rogue Squadron was announced, and it would already have a director, a writer, directed by Patty Jenkins, and was going to be set after Episode 9, follows a new generation of starfighter pilots as they earn their wings and risk their lives in a boundary-pushing high-speed thrill ride. Was going to come to theaters December 2023. So as we sit here today, it should have already been done. We should have almost been a year out from that.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope. So
December of 2020, that was announced. In November of 2021, not even a year later, Rogue Squadron is delayed.
Oof.
And that's because of many different things. Patty Jenkins prioritized the Wonder Woman projects and the stuff that she had in the works for that, which ended up after James Gunn took hold of Warner Brothers and DC, decided to clear the slate. Therefore, Patty Jenkins is back and ready for action. In May of 2022, the writer of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness says he's working on a Star Wars project and screenplay for Kevin Feige to direct. Later on in an interview, Kathleen Kennedy would go on and said, we never announced a project with Kevin Feige.
What?
Even though she went on stage and announced a project with Kevin Feige.
Oof. Ouch.
But because of the problems with the post-Endgame Marvel world, that writer and Kevin Feige was prioritized to focus exclusively on Marvel and get much more involved than he had been. In September of 2022, Rian Johnson said his trilogy of movies are still in development. And then a few months later in December, he says, actually, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't do these, but it would be sad. October of 2022, another movie is in the works. This one we are still talking about. Almost 3 years later, we're still talking about this. And that is the one that was kicked off with Damon Lindelof doing his own Star Wars movie. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, the director of Ms. Marvel, was set to take helm as the director's chair. At that point, there weren't any details on it. November of 2022, Sean Levy is in early talks to do a Star Wars project. There's no writer or what the project would be. Apparently, that's still in the realm of possibility at some point in the future, after Stranger Things, more than likely.
Oh, really?
We shall see. March 2023, Jenkins' Rogue Squadron and Kevin Feige's movies are shelved. The problem was Patty Jenkins was focused on Wonder Woman 3, then drama around that started happening, put that on the back burner. Kevin Feige's project was moved on as Waldron went to work on Secret Wars. Waititi's project is still ongoing at this point, and could be, at this point, the next project that's coming over. And a few days later, Damon Lindelof is out. It was announced that him and his co-writer had taken a step back and were asked to leave the project.
Yikes.
And this was around the idea of a Rey-led Star Wars movie. Damon Lindelof wanted to do a jump of like 30 years and have like an older version of Rey as this like mentor type role with a new set of characters. And it seemed like Disney at that time didn't want to step so far away from Rey's character as Daisy Ridley plays her.
Gotcha.
April 2023, Star Wars Celebration. We were there for that one. They officially announced that Obey Chinoy's film would be continuing forward and be a Daisy Ridley's Rey led story. Then that's when they also announced Stephen Knight was going to take place of the writer's role, creator of Peaky Blinders and many other great things. Also, there's going to be a movie from James Mangold that's going to talk about the origins of the Jedi and the Force, as well as Dave Filoni's Mandoverse movie also got announced at this time frame. Days later, they said that they are still talking regularly with Taika Waititi and Rian Johnson. So we have April 2023. They're still working on that. November of 2023, Dave Filoni is announced as Lucasfilm's chief creative officer. According to reports and rumors and leaks, this is something that he was already doing up to this point. This is just an official announcement of it. January 2024, Disney and Lucasfilm formally announce Mandalorian and Grogu, directed by Favreau and produced by Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni. Film is already in production. Pedro Pascal and Sigourney Weaver will star, and that will lead Lucasfilm's feature slate that also include projects for Obey Chinoy's, Mangold, and Filoni. September of 2024, Donald Glover says that there's still a chance he returns to the screen again to portray Lando Calrissian. In July of 2023, Glover and his brother Stephen Glover took over the writing duties of the show that was already announced, and they are now reworking it to be a movie instead. October of 2024, just recently, Stephen Knight is no longer writing Obey Chinoy's film, likely delaying production until at least late in 2025, and Lucasfilm is in talks to replace him as writer. And then brand new, November 2024, Simon Kinberg sets a deal to write, produce, and develop a new trilogy of movies. Reports differ as to whether the films are a continuation of the Skywalker saga or focus on new characters. I've seen most popularly reported that this will be a new trilogy set with new characters as the focus, but familiar faces will return, and that Rey's character will be an Obi Wan-like type role. So there we have it. Those are all of the movies and announcements and things that have been announced and further canceled, or things that are still in production that have not been officially canceled so far.
Wow.
So when they announce a new Star Wars trilogy of movies, this is why people are not that excited about it.
No.
Because they've done it before, and clearly we've had how many things that have been announced? Upwards of like 15 projects, and we have not seen anything from any of them in 6 years, 7 years by the time that we get a new Star Wars movie actually in theaters, possibly with The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is also not reported in this list, but has been delayed because of reshoots. So,
oh gosh,
they were supposed to wrap projects in October, and I think they are still continuing to do some shoots. So,
wow.
This is also Jon Favreau loves to direct and make movies in California. So that's also a difference with this project, and that is why it's also easier for him to get this done. Typically with a Star Wars project, they do a lot of stuff in the UK, which adds some complexities when it turns to like making these things. But Jon Favreau has made a bunch of things. They've clearly got a rhythm down for making a Mandalorian type show in terms of the infrastructure that they have there. So we'll see if that actually ever comes out. But what are your thoughts on this after going through that whole list?
That's exhausting.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we still are hearing about, well, we think this is still going on
Almost 5 years later.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. I mean, yeah. I feel like Disney needs to learn from this madness and realize, oh, maybe we shouldn't announce things until we're like actually in production, like actually like ready to jump in feet first, you know? Instead of this just willy-nilly, like you can let rumors be rumors, but maybe don't just be like, yeah, we're going to do this thing with this person and this is totally going to happen, and then let us all down. Over and 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 over. So, I'm exhausted. That's just painful. It feels really sloppy.
I'm at the point, and I know a lot of other fans are, that I don't believe that a Star Wars project is actually going to get released until there's a trailer. Like, I'm at the point where an announcement direct from Lucasfilm means nothing until we see a trailer. That's kind of how I felt about Skeleton Crew, because there was a lot of reports that Skeleton Crew wasn't just going to get made or released, even though they had shot some stuff. I'd seen a trailer for it when I heard these rumors. And now that it's officially out, we have a release date. Now I can get excited about it. Like, that's kind of the place that I am, as well as many other fans in right now.
It's crazy. It's crazy that it's become this. I feel like Star Wars... Back in the day.
Back in my day. We waited 15 years in between 3 movies.
Yeah.
And we got them every 2 years once they came out.
Right. Like it was a timely thing. Like not good time, but it was like it was a
somewhat consistent.
But it was kind of, I wouldn't say expected, but it was like you could kind of count on it a little bit. Like you could be like,
well, when Phantom Menace got announced, there was going to be a trilogy of movies. Everyone got really excited. And also, we knew as soon as one came out that there would be another one.
Right.
And it would continue that same story. And then there'd be another one after that. There'd be 3 total.
Yep. Yeah. So I do still think it was really fascinating that they were wanting to focus on the TV stuff. I mean, I'm assuming Disney Plus was a big factor in that.
Oh, yeah. So Bob Iger set up this big plan, and then Bob Chapek took over through the pandemic and continued on that plan without adjusting due to the pandemic. So streaming was a big deal, but as they poured tons of money in without adjustment due to the pandemic, a lot of things did not go forward as well as they had intended. They lost a lot of money on Disney Plus. They spent a lot of money on Disney Plus. And now that we're in this new era where everyone's trying to fight for that third place really marker, because Netflix is going to be there. That's kind of the main thing. You've got these big players and everyone's trying to be like, well, I want to be the second or third option for a streaming platform. Everyone's fighting for that. It's costly.
Yeah. And I think Disney's kind of understanding like, well, we're always going to be kind of our own thing. So let's do what we know we're good at.
Yeah.
Or we're good at this point. I don't know for Star Wars.
We'll see if they actually go with that direction.
Yeah. It's true. It's like maybe we're in the transition point now again of like, no, we should go back to TV to show. Who knows, man? Yeah. I think that's truly the most exhausting point about this is that they keep flip-flopping. They're not sticking to something.
They aren't confident. Like this is not a decision made by people that are confident in their abilities to create something. If you kind of like compare and contrast this to the Penguin just recently ended, and it is an 8-episode show. How many other shows do we have on Disney Plus that are in Star Wars that have 8 episodes? Oh, all of them except for Andor? But these 8 episodes are an hour long each, and people are not feeling dissatisfied by the depth that they're able to get to in the character.
Yeah.
The season has a beginning, middle, and an end. Meanwhile, on the Disney Star Wars side of things, Everything is just like a beginning. There is no middle, there is no climax, there is no conclusion to these stories or arcs, there is no 3-act structure, there is no hero's journey that Star Wars is literally built on top of. And also, the strength that the Penguin has is people that watch just the Batman and then go to the Batman 2, they aren't going to lose anything if they don't watch the Penguin. So they're going to gain things, but they aren't going to be like Mandalorian season 2 to season 3. If you just watch the Mandalorian as a show, that's a terrible show. That's a terrible transition from season 2 to season 3.
Yeah.
Because you have to watch Book of Boba Fett.
Yes, you do. Or at least the 2 episodes.
Yeah,
Smack dab in the middle of Boba Fett.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff like that when you look at the grand scheme of it that I just wonder if that's the wise move here. I just don't know. I think looking at the history, the story, the arc of announcements that we've had from Disney and Lucasfilm in this way is very telling of a company that has lost its way in terms of creating things that they believe in, that they know is going to capture the idea of a Star Wars movie. I think they lost a lot of confidence with that sequel trilogy because they did not go into it with a plan.
Yep.
They just, by the seat of their pants, they said, hey, you director, come over here, let's do something.
Yep.
And then they had to over-adjust, and then we got this Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And after that, while it did well monetarily, it kind of muddied the waters for a lot of people's perception of Star Wars being this cohesive story.
And that's kind of saying something, because I feel like the prequel trilogy muddied the waters as well, to an extent.
But at least it had a core theme.
Oh,
like
for
it had
sure.
an idea and a story.
No,
and
I'm not even like, I'm not saying they're really at all comparable, but it's just interesting that that's how people kind of felt with that.
Yeah.
And then we got this, and it was like, oh, no, wait, now the prequels
Those prequels weren't that bad, actually.
Were actually really good. Oof. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, I think there's so much when we look at this. There's eye-opening for me was just seeing how long it's been since a lot of these projects have actually been announced.
Yeah.
And we've not seen much in terms of efforts to push them forward. We've actually seen them pull back even more. And now, even though we have officially announced on their investor call that there is going to be a Star Wars movie in 2026, I don't feel like we're any closer to that coming out. Like, it almost feels like we're further away from a Star Wars movie coming out than we have ever been. That's not to say that we aren't going to get Star Wars content. We're still going to get Star Wars content in the TV shows. I just wonder, like, where we're going to go in the future when we look at this as a retrospective.
Yeah.
But let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, or contact at uplinkpodcast.com. If you're listening to this wherever you find podcasts. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for listening. May the Force be with you.